5 ways to increase soil fertility. Let's look at that for a second. What is soil? Soil is rock material that's been broken down either by erosion, physical properties that broke it down, and then it's been, in some cases, chewed up by earthworms and used in their gizzard, and then inoculated with all sorts of stuff. And then organic material is added to the soil. In nature, it might be through a flood or a landslide or a forest that sat there for several years, or it might be through algae that's fallen at the bottom of a lake, and then there's a glacial shift that moves it around. Mixing rock with organic material, that is soil. Now, if we want to talk about living soil, now we need to add the micro, the macro, and the fungal colonies to it. So to me, if I were to sum that up into 5 things that you could improve your soil with, it would be fungal material, organic material, such as anything that is carbon-based, trees, animals, you name it. It would also be rock and mineral material, which is part of the earth and what's here. So basically, mineral material, carbon, and carbon in the form of organic material, and life. One other element that we need is H2O, water. Water is very important in the fertility of soil. It's a transfer station in a sense. Without water, we wouldn't have life and we wouldn't have living soil, because living soil needs a certain amount of moisture in it. Ideally, that's set up where a forest gives it enough shade, where there's rainfall that's in sufficient amounts, where the land hasn't been tilled or stripped of its organic material, and it still has a fungal mat or web, mycorrhizal cultures, that are able to hold the moisture into the ground. So these are all very key components of soil. We'll go through it again. We need air as well before we go through it again. Air is a very crucial part of healthy soil. It needs to have circulation within it. And a lot of the times that's covered by having a really good fungal mat and also having a community of creatures on the micro and the macro that move it around underground enough to keep air and aeration and gases moving around and have the ability to off gas and transfer gases out of the ground in the whole process of photosynthesis. So I would say for sure that the 5 most important pieces of soil, or the making of soil, would be air, water, rock, which is a conglomerate of minerals, a carbon-based source, being that plant or animal material, just to keep it really simple, and fungal material. There's also bacteria and a whole myriad of micronutrients, but that's a whole scale of it. So I'm just going to break this down into the 5 key components that make healthy living soil. So we're going to go through that now. If we want to build healthy soil, let's start out with a pile of crushed rock. And by crushed rock means it's several types of minerals. That's why it's called a rock. It's not just one pure thing. It's crushed up now. Put it in a pile. Now, what do we need to add to that? Okay, we're going to add a little bit of water. We're going to, it's spread out on the surface where it was tight together in a clump. So now at whatever atmospheric pressure is, 33 pounds, I believe, that's pushing against it. It's absorbing air and oxygen on the surface that way. So we have air, we have water, and we have mineral material. What do we need to add to that next? So now let's just take some wood chips. That's something everybody can find anywhere. Maybe the neighbor chipped a tree or a bunch of stuff. Let's actually get a little chipper and let's chip the stuff from your backyard. Now let's chip it onto that pile. Pretty cool, huh? The other thing that's in soil, which all these things are going to build, and we haven't really talked about, which you're going to hear all the time, is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That's NPK, the basic building blocks. Nitrogen is what makes things green. Phosphorus and potassium work on stem and root growth and fruiting. So the idea that that's a whole measure, just get that out of your mind. How do we make healthy soil that provides those things? So we talked about carbon being an animal or a plant. That's what these wood chips are. These wood chips are your carbon source. The first source, which was rock, was your mineral source because it's a conglomerate of many different minerals. It's spread out on its own. Air is penetrating it, so there's your air. You put a little bit of water on it, there's your water source. That's to be played with and messed with, but we're really just giving you the very basics of how this works. Now you have your wood chip carbon material on there. It has air, it has water, it has mineral. Where's your fungal come from? It's amazing. It comes from the sky. It comes from everywhere around it. We actually have to turn this on to 6 elements, even though I mentioned 5, because without the life, without the living creatures to help move it around, to help break it down, not only does fungal material come in and break down organic material, but living creatures also do that as well. So that's when I talk about the micro and the macro. All these living creatures, from earthworms to isopods to copepods to things that we can't see. From the bacterial size of things, which we really haven't talked about too much, I'm just throwing that in with the macro and the micro. And larger creatures like beetles and beetle larvae that will literally eat a wood chip into this material, then that will be eaten again by other creatures, and then will be bonded into the mineral material, letting them move it around like a forest does. The fungal material is already going to be on the plants that were chipped. What we don't realize, how we get our own bacteria in nature, our gut bacteria, is from eating from nature. And even when we eat meat from a cow that's grass-fed, it's eaten lactobacillus on his grass. We get it out of his milk and out of its meat, if that's what you do. But so these transfers are all around us when we talk about the fungal material. Now we can speed it along by going out and finding a well-known mycorrhizal culture to your area. Like for us, it's a pepeal mushroom. We can go collect logs with it. We can take that mycelium and chip it into our wood chips. So this fungal material is pretty important. It's going to start breaking the wood down. So to recap this, we started off with a pile of ground up rock material, almost in the form of sand, which means it's minerals. Then we added water, air added itself. Then we added carbon in the material of wood chips. We're just going to use that for real basic. We chipped some trees, we chipped some different array of different things, and now this pile of wood chips is setting on top of this. Now the fungal material has come in from the air. It's already in the wood chips, or we've added a little extra. All we have to do is get the creatures in it. Now add some earthworms, add some copepods, add some amphipods. Do nothing. Just let these creatures come on their own. Just keep watering it. They will come, especially if you put it out in nature underneath a tree that already has some leaf litter around it. Most of these creatures are going to live there already. So you're going to find earthworms in your pile. You're going to find mycelium in the form of this white web all over it. You're going to find copepods, which are roly-polies. You're going to find amphipods that are like these little jumping flea things that can live in the water or live on land, like a little miniature shrimp. All these things are going to work together. They're going to eat material. They're going to shed their skins in the form of calcium. They're going to eat each other. And what's going to happen is it's going to form into nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and all the micronutrients that feed plants. So this is pretty simple in the basic 5 elements that are going to give you soil fertility. But we threw in, which we realize it's not the basics 5, it's 6 that we're going to give you here. So we're including the creatures and all the micro and the macro. So with what you've heard from me so far, why don't you tell me what you're missing in your garden? Do you have air? Do you have water? Do you have minerals? Do you have organic material? Do you have fungal material? And do you have life? Have you kicked the bugs off, or have you invited them in? Do you have patience? Do you have consistency? And are you observing? Are you paying attention to what's going on? This is the most important thing that I can put forward to you guys again and again and again, is the power of observing what's happening. I developed this from observing nature for over 40 years, immersing myself into it. And these observations have led me to these forms of reintroducing fertility back into the land. It's really important to me that you understand this, and you can understand it a lot better if you go check out our website. We have some of this stuff in courses that are easily available that you can follow it in depth and have someone that supports you through it, so you actually can get your hands into it, and we'll guide you right through it. We'll show you how to have a really green thumb, how to have some amazing living soil in your backyard, Or maybe you want to be a homesteader. Maybe you want to learn how we teach you how to make solar panels, or we teach you all different aspects of how to live close to nature. We have an intern program on our farms that are set up here in Hawaii, and we're going to try to share all that goes on with that and that goes on with our interns and our incubator programs. We want to create ambassadors of stewardship. We want to create the next future generations of regenerative farmers that aren't interested in giant monocropping and row cropping and displacement of all the creatures around us. People that are actually interested in stewardship, to be able to malama, to be able to take care of the land and understand the prosperity that comes from that for both you, the land, all the creatures around you. One way you can get this out there more, some people are like, man, this is good stuff, you should have millions of viewers. I say with all humility, we should, because we want to share with people what is going on. And you might laugh at that, it's an oxymoron. I say with all humility, you should, millions of people should follow us. I say that because this is bigger than me. People want to speak its language. I have taken the time to immerse myself in it. And as a child, people laughed at it. And now I understand this is what's needed for us to walk forward in harmony with our planet, to understand what stewardship means, to take care of it, and to also receive the prosperity that comes from it. So yeah, let's get this out there. Let's reach other people. Let's give people hope in the sense that it is doable. Nothing that we do takes millions of dollars. We're trying to teach people third world country techniques that you can use that doesn't take money, but it does take your time, your patience, your dedication, your observation, and anybody can do it. So yeah, check it out, subscribe on our YouTube channel, go to our website, check out our courses, and spread the word. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can.